It all started on a cloudy Thursday afternoon in late spring. The air was heavy with the scent of rain and freshly cut grass, and I was stuck at home with a long to-do list that felt almost impossible to tackle alone. My name is Lauren, and I had just moved into my new place a few weeks ago. It wasn't anything fancy, just a cozy, two-bedroom rental house in a quiet suburb outside of Portland. I had chosen the house because it was close to my new job and offered some peace and privacy, which I needed after a difficult year. The move had taken more out of me than I expected. Between packing, organizing utilities, starting a new job, and trying to maintain a sense of normalcy, I was running on fumes. On top of that, some of the furniture I ordered arrived earlier than expected and was sitting in huge boxes in the middle of my living room. I didn't even own the right tools to assemble it all. That's when I thought about reaching out to Brian, my stepbrother. We weren't biologically related, and we hadn't grown up in the same household, but we'd gotten to know each other better in recent years after our parents got married. He was my stepdad's son from a previous marriage, and we had met at family gatherings and the occasional holiday dinner. What stood out about Brian was how reliable and calm he always seemed, even when everyone else was flustered or dramatic. He was the kind of person who didn't talk too much, but was always willing to lend a hand. We hadn't spoken in a few months, but I remembered him mentioning he worked in construction and had weekends off. It felt a little awkward to call him out of the blue, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to ask. I dialed his number, unsure if he'd even pick up. To my surprise, he answered on the second ring. "Hey, Lauren," he said, sounding warm but a little curious. "Everything okay?" I explained my situation, feeling a bit silly as I detailed how overwhelmed I was by furniture boxes and the absence of even a basic screwdriver. "Say no more," Brian said with a light chuckle. "I'll swing by tomorrow after work. I have my tools in the truck anyway." Relief washed over me. I hadn't expected him to agree so quickly, but it was exactly what I needed. The next day, true to his word, Brian showed up around 6 in the evening. I opened the door to find him standing there in jeans and a gray t-shirt, toolbox in hand, and a casual smile on his face. He gave me a quick hug and walked in, glancing around the house with approving eyes. "Nice place," he said. "You just need to get rid of these boxes." I laughed, feeling more at ease now that he was here. As we worked together in the living room, opening boxes and laying out parts for the coffee table and bookshelves, conversation flowed more naturally than I expected. We talked about our jobs, our mutual love for old rock music, and how strange it still felt to refer to each other as family. I still tell people I have a stepsister in Oregon, and they look at me like, "When did that happen?" Brian joked. As the evening wore on, I offered him dinner. I didn't have much, but I managed to put together a simple pasta dish and poured us each a glass of red wine. We ate at my tiny kitchen table, surrounded by open boxes and half-assembled furniture. It was strangely perfect. After dinner, Brian insisted on finishing the assembly before leaving. "Let's knock it out tonight. You'll feel better waking up tomorrow with everything done," he said. I watched him work, focused, efficient, and calm. Something about his presence made the house feel less lonely. By the time he finished, it was close to midnight. "You should just crash here," I said without thinking. "You've been working all day, and I have a guest room that's empty." He hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Thanks, I'll take you up on that." The next morning, I made coffee while Brian rubbed the sleep from his eyes and joined me in the kitchen. We sat in silence for a moment, sipping our drinks and listening to the rain tapping against the windows. "You know," I said, "I really don't know what I would have done if you didn't come by." He looked at me and smiled. "That's what family's for, right?" I smiled back, but something about the way he said it made me feel something unexpected. Comfort, yes, but also something deeper, an appreciation that went beyond simple gratitude. Over the next few weeks, Brian started dropping by more often. At first, it was little things. He came by to install curtain rods, fix a leaky faucet, or help hang art on the walls. But eventually, we began spending time together just to talk or hang out. We'd watch movies, cook dinner, or take walks around the neighborhood. I learned that Brian had recently ended a long-term relationship and was trying to figure out what was next for him. I shared my own story of heartbreak and starting over. We became sounding boards for each other. One evening in late June, we were sitting on the back patio, watching the sky change colors as the sun set. A breeze rolled in, cool and comforting. I turned to Brian and said, "You've really helped me more than you know. Not just with the house, but with everything. I've felt less alone since you started coming around." He looked at me, his expression unreadable for a moment, then said quietly, "I'm glad. I needed it too, Lauren. Maybe more than I realized." The air felt heavy again, but in a different way. We didn't say much after that. Just sat in silence, letting the moment settle. Days turned into weeks, and by the middle of summer, Brian was practically a regular part of my life. We didn't label it or talk about it in any obvious way, but the bond we shared had grown into something neither of us had expected. When my car broke down one morning before work, he was the first person I called. When his dog got sick and he didn't know who else to turn to, he showed up at my door. We had become each other's safe place. One weekend, we decided to drive out to the coast. It was something spontaneous. We packed a couple of bags, some snacks, and drove for hours, talking and laughing like we were old friends on a road trip. The ocean was calm that day, the sky a deep blue, and we walked along the beach barefoot, letting the waves crash around our ankles. At one point, I looked at Brian and said, "Can you believe we barely even knew each other a year ago?" He grinned.
Yeah.
Life's weird like that. Sometimes the people you need show up when you least expect it. That night, we stayed at a small inn near the water. Over dinner, we talked about what was next, how things were changing, how we were both trying to build something better. I told him I was thinking about going back to school. He said he was considering starting his own handyman business. We encouraged each other like partners in crime, two people rooting for each other to win. The thing is, sometimes help comes in the form of someone showing up with tools and muscle. Other times, it's quieter, like sitting next to someone who understands you without words. Brian was both for me. He fixed my shelves, sure. But more importantly, he helped me rebuild my sense of trust, comfort, and hope. I didn't realize how much I needed that until he gave it to me. Looking back now, it all seems like fate. A call for help, an unexpected visit, and two people who found something meaningful in each other's presence. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. My stepbrother's help was more than needed. It was life-changing.